Well, hello everybody. My name's Vic Gilgis and I'm here again with another podcast episode 57, and I'm calling this one, because it's on well-being, I'm calling it a different well-being. And the reason I'm doing this, and I've told you before, and is that I do it to hopefully improve your well-being and hopefully to improve mine. That's what it's all about. And in this video, I'm going to talk about this different type of well-being through modalities. The modalities I call techniques and approaches to well-being, which I will describe: Neuro Linguistic Programming, that's NLP, counselling, hypnotherapy, and there are others. But I'm going to describe the ones that I've done and some of the courses that I've been on, whose main thing, and by the way, it's sweltering here, we're in the middle of a heat wave. So why I've got my braces on, I don't know, but it's hot, and it's been like that for a few days now. But thankfully, I always have slept well, and so I'm okay. And it's nice to talk to you. But I've been putting this podcast off because it's so sweltering, but I just couldn't put it off because some strange things happen. Let me explain. When I'm about to do something like this, and this may seem a bit woo-woo to you, but I plan what I'm going to do, obviously, and what I'm going to say. And then something happens. I switch on, and there is some input I get about it, about what I'm thinking about or going to do. And it is quite important. And I pick up on this. But what seems amazing to me and is lovely to me is that it always happens. And so that's why I'm doing this now, is because I've got to stop all these things coming at me to do with this podcast, so I can get on with my life. And I enjoy doing this, but I'll explain. Last night I went through Netflix, and I was looking through the different films, and I do this. I thought, well, that's a good film. And I start watching, I think, I've seen this before. But there you are. So I watched it, and I knew I was going to watch it again because it was a film about a mathematical prodigy from India who travelled to Cambridge to work with a professor in 1914, and his name was Srinivasa Ramanujan. Srinivasa Ramanujan, and he was to do with infinite number series, complex mathematical series. And the reason that this intrigued me is that this mathematician he worked under a Professor Hardy at Cambridge and was criticised because he couldn't publish a paper on his subject. So he'd said, this is how it works. This is the infinite number series. And the professors were saying to him, Professor Hardy was saying to him, look, you've got to have all the proof. You can't just say this is how it works. And he was saying, well, I know it works and it's right. And here it is. And he was kind of giving the end result. And they were saying, no, to write an academic paper, to be peer reviewed, it's got to have all these ingredients. Anyway, to cut a long story short, this he was assisted in writing this paper, which basically he had to go the long way around to explain what he already knew, and he said, because they said, what do you mean by it? You can't say intuition, it comes to you. And he said, well, that's it. And he said, where's it come from? He said, I don't know. God, I don't know. It was one of his Indian gods. And I'm not being kind of funny on religion here. It's God. It was the God that we all have. We might call it different names, but it just came to him. Now, I know about this. I know that that happens, and I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet. What I'm saying is, and I'm relating this to well-being that I'm going to talk about, is that our well-being, this is why I've called it a different well-being. Our well-being comes from what we think is form. So, in other words, taking meditation, there is the form of meditation is the process that you go through to meditate, because there are different types of meditation, but the act of meditation, actually meditating, is different. It is doing it. It doesn't matter which way you do it. You can be meditating when you're walking out through a meadow or taking a shower, or even whilst I'm speaking to you now, my mind can sometimes just drift away and meditate on something. That happens. So it doesn't have to be do it this way, transcendental meditation, or do it that way, walking meditation. And I'm going to talk about, these are called modalities because they're in the nature of form. And what I'm talking about form is, in this world, we are human beings, human. And so in the world of form, but before form, there is the formless, which gives rise to the form. And the formless is where the intelligence is. It is where the knowing is, which is a different thing from the intellect. And the intellect is what the professors at Cambridge were saying you've got to use in order to go through all the steps to prove what you want to prove. And this is what he had to do. And I think he found it very frustrating. And the point is, lesser mortals than him, and Hardy said this, Professor Hardy said, we need to know, how you got there. Now, and I'm not putting myself in this league at all, but what I'm saying to you is that I know there is something else that can give well-being apart from the well-being modalities and approaches that we use in the physical world. In other words, there is a well-being that is inside of us that we can tap into, that's always been there, which will come forth when we quieten the mind. So I'll talk about that later, because I'm going to talk about these modalities of Neuro Linguistic Programming, hypnotherapy, and the courses I've been on, which have all looked at approaches to well-being. And in that, what I'm going to try and do is say, yes, these are the approaches, and they can, because that's why they give them and use them and teach them, is because they do work, but they work to a degree. They can only work to a degree because they are in the world of form, and they are constructed techniques, and they are abstracts of what is real. What is real is being able to tap into what is real, is the actual well-being that you've got inside of you, which doesn't need an explanation or approach. But that's what I'm going to go through in this talk, hopefully. But going back to this mathematician who said, look, it just comes to me, and Mozart said the same. Now, look, I'm not trying to bullshit here as regards me. All I know is that I've experienced a bit of this. When I was doing my PhD, I knew what to do. So I had this approach, and my tutor was an Oxford fellow, great bloke, Professor Nigel Slack, brilliant man. And he was saying to me, Vic, you can't just do it that way. You've got to look at different ways of and look at method 1. Did that work? Method 2. Did that work? Method 3. Methodology, he called it. Well, I mean, nowadays they teach people how to do PhDs and they show them what methodology is. I didn't know what methodology was. I just said, like, as an engineer, it works. And they said, you can't just say it works. And I was saying, well, it bloody well does. And so I had to go through all this rigmarole. I think I wrote about 4 different, maybe I think 5 of methodologies, and looked at each one and said, this is why it wouldn't work, and this is, and so everybody was happy, and that just took away time from me actually proving that what I was looking at would work. And so it just sucked up. I mean, I think this made this mathematician, Srinivasa Ramanujan, ill, because he just got frustrated with the whole system. But, we all need to know why. And that's what they're trying to do, is please tell us. And so even when I went to Nottingham, when I was doing Nottingham University, when I was doing research there, when we had to write research proposals, I would always get from the people who were scrutinising a proposal I did, well, how would you do it? And I would say, well, don't worry about that, because I'll find out along the way, it will come to me. And they would say, you can't say that. So what I'm saying is, yes, intellectually there is a way of doing things, but what we've got to remember is, and I think this is the truth, is that there are... when things come to us about, you may call it an intuition, a knowing, then it's there. And I don't think we'll ever explain the process of that. And why should we want to? It's mystical, it's magical. Just know it's there. And that's the trouble, is that I think a lot of people try to think the way through things, think the way through their mental health, think the way through their issues, using their intellect. Like, I did this, and should I have done that? Was this right? What about that person said? Did that dog look at me right? No, it didn't. Well, what do I do about that? So they go around and around in circles, using their brain, which has not got the capacity compared to what Sydney Banks called big mind. I've also got a stinking rotten cold. Anyway, back to the script, if I've got one. So modalities. I told you last time that I went on a counselling course, and the counselling course was like psychology in reverse. It looked at because it looked at our thoughts and why our say bad thoughts about the past and worries about the future, and analysed them and looked at why it gave rise to behaviour. Well, I mean, this is reverse psychology, because what it doesn't do, in fact, it concentrates more on the issues and the problems, and that means you get stuck. Now, what Sydney Banks said was, there is a thing called your consciousness, which when you focus on something, it puts bells and whistles on it. So normal counselling like that, and I'm sure counselling nowadays has improved and is different. I'm talking about when I had it. It is that, oh dear, excuse me, I forgot what we're talking about now. It deals with the psychology of things, which is a form. What is before form is the fact that we have the ability to think, and those thoughts are magnified and bells and whistles again through consciousness, right? But what Cindy Banks said was, there is a thing called big mind, which is the intelligence of the universe. And he said, I don't know what that is, but it's there. It's love. It's intelligent. Listen to Robert Holden's talk about love being intelligent. Lovability, I think he did a book on, anyway, something like that. But I'll talk a bit more about books and what and authors and all the rest of it later. So that type of counselling I had just it dealt with the symptoms, not the cause. The cause is the creation, is the formless, now, in the now. Oh, we're still ticking away, yes. Well, I've got to keep my eye on the time here because I'm going on a bit. So I went on an NLP course, a Neuro Linguistic Programming course, and I got a sticky foot in it. So, things about it were that it was a kind of a change the way you think about something, so you think about it more positively type course. And that's, like, there was one thing was standing in a beam of golden light so that you felt powerful, like the Superman pose and all the rest of it. Well, it works for so long. And the trouble with that is, when the shit hits the fan, it doesn't always work because you panic, because you can't let me stand in this golden light. I'm talking about something that is beneath that or beyond that, which is what we've always got in fact, inside of us is always a beam of golden light. It's there. We don't have to imagine it being there or work ourselves up to it. So what I'm saying is that was one aspect of NLP I didn't like. The other one was ingratiating yourself with the client so that you created an empathy so that they would open up and all the rest of it. And to me, that just seemed like a load of bullshit, because that's just a technique where you were fibbing to the client, oh, I do like you, and what does your mother like for breakfast and all the rest of it, to ingratiate yourself. I mean, and the point is that the therapist sat opposite you is following a script. When you are in your normal presence with another human being, there is an energy field there. And if you have what I would call a natural empathy, so you're not working off a crib sheet, then this is why artificial intelligence is never going to work. I mean, it'll work for some things, but not for this type of thing. So I've gone off peak. So yeah, so it didn't dealt with. NLP did not deal with the thing that is there before thought. It was trying to change people's existing thought, and so we're dealing here with the form, the thought, and that is, that's when the when the horse has bolted out of the station. So, have I can I say anything more about that? Yeah. So, right. So I went on Now then, hypnosis. I was trained as a hypnotherapist. So I actually went on a course, Cambridge School of Hypnotherapy, paid good money, was trained in it. And there's more to it than you think. So it's not just about hypnosis, it's how to work within the field of hypnotherapy and be, because there can be a lot of harm done, and you learn how to do good because you're putting people into a trance, and it depends on what you say whilst in that trance. And so you've got to be well trained, very careful how you're dealing with people, and that is why it's regulated, and that's why you're told right from wrong, and you've got to be assessed, and you've got to be etc., etc. And it takes a lot of energy, because when you're in a like a darkened room with one other person, I stuck it for a year, and I had paid clients, and I was fairly successful, and there's loads of stories there. What I'm saying, hypnotherapy doesn't work for everyone, but it works for quite a lot of people, and it really does work, because you alter a person's brain pattern when you put them into a trance, lowers their critical mind, and once that is there, you're under the radar and you can put in well-being. But what I'm saying, what I found out was that was time limited, that it lasted for about 4 weeks, and then the person needed a top up. Now, with what I call a different kind of well-being, you don't need top up because it's always there, and it is not done in the manner of the scripts that the hypnotherapist gives you whilst the hypnosis session is taking place, which can be a particular type of script which will do particular things. It can focus on well-being, and it will focus on particular aspects of well-being. But the point is, this thing inside of us, before thought, knows well-being because it knows you, and it knows what life is, and it knows what life needs for well-being. And when it kind of gives you that tap on the shoulder, maybe through into your subconscious. So that's the only reason I did hypnosis, was to say, let's cut out the middleman. Let's stop people thinking about how do I get to well-being. I'm going to tell you how to do well-being, because I'm going to put you into a trance, and I'm going to all that, and it worked. But it cannot do the full job to what I call a different type of well-being, which is what you've got already. So it's cheaper, it's always there, but people don't do that because they've been told that this particular modality works. And it did work, but I did not know about the principles. When I was talking about Sydney Banks's work of mind, consciousness and thought, which I will fully... The only reason I'm going around the houses here is you cannot get an understanding and a grounding, that's what I'm trying to do in all this, until you have to go sometimes. I'm slow, and so you've got to sometimes do it, and I'm only telling you the way I got to know. If you can get there quicker, and Sydney Banks did, he got this straight away without undergoing any modalities or any training. He had no education. He was a welder, a ninth grade education man who just had this epiphany, and he always said, if I can have it, anybody else could have it. And where did it come from? It's like that mathematician. It just is there. It comes. And all I know is that I had to kind of quieten down here, and it's not that you go looking for it, it's there and it comes to you. Okay, now so hypnosis. Now then, so what's the time? 20 minutes, right? Some of the programs I went to a place called Atlow Mill, where that focused on breaking down the ego. It was really harsh. In fact, you kind of, they're there to break your ego down in order to build you up. And I saw many people on the program kind of going downhill, and so, but that was the approach that they used. But one interesting thing that happened on that particular course is that there was this descendant of a Red Indian. This guy, his forebears were Red Indians. And what he did was, you've got to be careful here, don't do this at home. He took us through breathing exercises. So you had a partner and he was supervising. And all that yourself did when it was your turn, because you took it in turns, was you breathed for England. You just kept on breathing. It actually come to a point with me that you just stopped breathing because you've got that much oxygen in your system. It kind of, you didn't need to breathe. It was weird. Anyway, whilst you're doing all, you laid down, and so you do this, and you've got to be supervised because certain things come to the surface for some reason. It's physiological. I don't understand it. But primitive things, maybe your subconscious, and also somebody had an illness that kind of expressed itself. Not me, somebody else. That came out. So certain things that are there do come out with this process. And this man was trained to do it. But anyway, what happened to me was I found myself laying on a deck chair in the sky with like a perspex floor, and it had big holes in it, this floor. And someone kept saying to me, come on, get off your backside, Vic. And I didn't want to because, and the sun was shining, lovely. I thought, I'm staying in this deck chair, it's fine here. And they said, why won't you get off the deck chair? And I said, look, because there was holes in the perspex and I'd fall back down to earth and I didn't want to fall through the holes. And that's all that came out of it. And the person that was there was listening to all this. And I remembered some of it. But basically, I saw this afterwards as being a tendency that I had to not take risks or to be lazy. And what I didn't realise at the time is that this was one of the reasons I was staying at the university as a lecturer, which it was not my cup of tea for all sorts of reasons, is that I knew if I went elsewhere, the money would be just the same, the job would be just the same, and I was nice. It was a lovely university, Nottingham University. I was quite comfy. And so that's what it was doing. It was just revealing what was really my subconscious was saying is, look, Vic, stop it, and chill. But you see, sometimes you have got to get off your backside. And I did eventually by saying, look, enough is enough. I'm going. But so what that is that didn't get to the root of the problem. I still was searching for where. In fact, I said to the Red Indian guy, because he wanted to do more with me in the afternoon, and I said, what will happen? I said, that was like going into a Pandora's box, a black sack of horrible things, picking a thing up, saying, no, it's no misery. And he said, oh, there's misery. He said, we could go on for it. He said, I've done this before. He said, another one will come along, then another one will come along. So I said, well, I'm not going this afternoon. That's it. Thank you very much. Because basically, it was bringing up stuff that is there, repressed stuff, I don't know, and trying to release it, etc., etc. Well, it's blinking well there. And what I'm saying is trying to improve your well-being by doing that just kind of didn't give any answers for me. And it doesn't give answers, I don't think. Whereas a different kind of well-being, knowing what is really going on with the way in which we tick as animals. So that modality didn't work. What else have I got here? Let's have a look. Where are we? 25 minutes. Right. I went to Holy Island near Glasgow, because there's two. I've been to the other one, Lindisfarne, the great place. There's one near Ireland. Now, when I went there, this was a full week. Now, there was no street lighting, no traffic in Ireland, and I just kind of settled. And every day, very early in the morning, we was out near the Irish Sea doing Tai Chi and Qigong, which I didn't particularly like, because Tai Chi is very intricate, but it's very calming, because your mind is off your problems. Your mind is looking at how you're getting this motion right and what it means and all the rest of it. So in that sense, it was calming me down. And that's what I'm saying. That was a modality to do that. And Qigong, in the sense that I used it with a partner, was to massage the body and get the energies in the body going. And honestly, if you do that before you go out to work in the morning, I used to do this, get up early and do Qigong. You just energized you for the day. The extra half hour was worth getting up for, because it kind of give hours of extra energy in the day anyway. Now, and so, what that was doing was calming the Tai Chi, calming the mind down. Well, you don't have to do Tai Chi to calm the mind down. That's a modality. In other words, you can calm the mind down by being calm. And there are ways to do it. It's having a cup of tea, going for a walk, just sitting, etc. So that's an expensive way of doing it, is going all the way to Holy Island. But anyway, it was lovely. One day we had a day of walking meditation, very strange, where we had to think about what we were doing. All of us, there was about 20 of us just walking around. In fact, one of the gurus was there on the island, and he said, as he saw us all walking, and he must have looked like a load of cripples, he said, I hope you all get better soon, because, and there's a quote here. I mean, honestly, I was tripping over my own feet sometimes, but it was what's the word? It was being in the now. It was awareness of life. Well, you can do that sat in your living room, yeah? But this is what that modality of the walking meditation, and I must quote this. This is what Mark Twain said. If we learned to walk and talk the way we learned to read and write, everybody would limp and stutter. I think that's great, because it's so true. We go about things. It took me ages to learn to read, because I've learned A before C. Well, so some things are just there and don't need the process of. You talk to people like Paul McCartney, who didn't need music. He learned music, but when he was like as a musician initially, he didn't know the theory of music, anything like that. Stuff just come to him, and he learned how to play it, to express it. So yeah. So what did we do at the Holy Act? Yes. So we did. the meditation. Now, as I said earlier, the meditation we did was calming, etc., etc. But that was a particular process we had to do early in the morning in this particular wooden hut and all the rest of it. And some of us fell asleep and some of us had apparitions. And wow, it was really. But again, meditation can be done anywhere. It is not a process. It is an actual thing. It is a state of mind. It is not a process. So all these modalities are helpful, but what they're trying to get at is well-being. And what I'm saying is that when you understand, and that's a big word, when you understand what well-being is, it's there before the form, and we're all the time in the form trying to do X, Y, and Z to get well-being. That cuts out the middleman. It cuts out all the ego stuff. It cuts out all the conditioning that we've got, which always kind of puts a kind of a damper on this. This is why sometimes the meditation didn't work, because I was thinking about the gas bill. I was thinking about going back to work the next week, etc., etc. At that time, I was busy. I was at work. So, oh yeah, one thing that was nice was the woman who led the thing. She's what's the time? Half an hour. I'll have to hurry up. She got us to massage each other. And she split us into opposite sexes. Well, this was really weird because, like you can imagine, some of the women saying, "Please don't touch me, please don't touch me," and so the instructor was saying, "Look, just at first, give them a hand massage the fingers, and then we got onto facial massages where I put them in a chair, laid them back, and as they do it now, people pay for facial massage, and eventually, after a while, all these barriers were just broken down, and believe me, this woman that I didn't even know her name properly. I never met her before. You know, she was, just laying on the floor saying, "Please massage me." And she was doing the same to me. Well, it was beautiful because what it did was it broke down the barriers of us and them, me and you, showing that we're not separate, that we're all one. And this is the thing about the three principles. It's saying, before form, we are all one. We think we're different to them. This is why we have wars and problems and troubles and all the rest of it. Thinking we think this, they don't think that way. We don't agree. But no, we are all one. We all want love. We all are love, and we, in that state of frame of mind, which is before form. In other words, there is personal thought, and then there is what I call before form thought. So personal thought is personal to us, and we're always got the blinkered view of life there, the conditioned view of life, the ego view of life, the hurt view of life, the tortured view of life. When you go to impersonal thought, which is before form, it knows what's best because it wants to thrive. It is love, and it's got intelligence in the feeling that it gives you. It knows. And what it does, when you are open to it, it puts that impersonal thought into your mind. So you suddenly start to realize what to do. You have an insight. Now, I better stop talking because we're past the half hour. I've got lots of things I could have said, but I'll go on to just relaxing now and breathing. Right, so breathing. So if you just settle down in your chair and just breathing 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe in 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe normally now. So let's just relax. From the top of our head, just relax. So your scalp is nice and soft, and your temples there are just relaxing down through your temples, down through relaxed cheeks, relaxed jaw muscles, down to a soft neck. Upper arms, muscles just relaxing, easy on your shoulders. Forearms, down to your forearms, just relaxing. Your body just down to a soft chest, just breathing, relaxed down to your tummy, so relaxed. Soft hips, that's right, just relaxed in your chair, down, easy on the bottom on your chair, down, just so relaxed, that's right. Relaxed thighs. That's easy and relaxed, the muscles there, your knees so relaxed. Your shins, relaxed down to your shins. Down through your calves, all relaxed. Down through to your ankles, the little muscles there, just relaxed and easy. Down to your feet, all relaxed. And the little muscles in the toes, so easy and relaxed. Well, it's turned out nice again. Thank you. Bit of a rushed one today, I think. There's a lot of detail I could have given. But what I was trying to say is that modalities that I've talked about, counselling, NLP, hypnotherapy, and the things that they did on the courses like meditation, relaxing, Tai Chi and all the rest of it, they're modalities. And they deal with the symptoms. The cause is before thought, before form. That's where the leverage is. That's where the juice is. So we all have living in an energy field. Otherwise we wouldn't exist. Big mind, as Sydney Banks called it, M-I-N-D, big mind, is life's intelligent energy, which without it we would not be alive. Without it we would not be able to have thought. Without it we wouldn't be conscious. It's an energy, and that energy has got intelligence. And when we stop looking in the direction of form, which we naturally do, because we're being given the gift of thought to think about stuff, right? But that always goes through our conditioned system, through our likes and dislikes, through our perspective, through our hates, through our loves. And it's all conditional. It's the way we see it. And Sydney Banks reminded us that we all live in a thought-created reality. It's a reality to us, but it's not the truth. It's what we make of things. And when we see that and go beyond personal thought to what really is, then we start to get the picture that if we're living a thought-created reality of us and them, and I talked about that with a massage, then we're always going to have strife. We're always going to have comparisons. And that is a killer of the soul, it's comparisons. And that's the ego. Look what I've got and look what they've got. You can't win. And a way out of that is acceptance, and it's not giving in. Acceptance that there is something there. Acceptance that is not the game. I mean, professor once said to me at Nottingham University, where I was complaining about stuff, is, "Oh, Vic, it's all a game." And I said, "Yeah, it's a blinking game, and you're winning and I'm not." But the point is, if it's deeper than that, the game that is actually being played is we all are winners. If we could help but see that, we are all on a level playing field that is always there to help us move towards the goal and score. It can't do anything else because the energy is there. The energy of life and the intelligence of life is always there to help us do it, to be there for us. And it is there for us. And at that level, it is working at that level. And we are lucky enough by knowing this, getting this understanding, and I will talk more because I'm trying to give you this grounding here. This is the only way I could find it, and maybe you're ahead of me and have kind of seen, oh yeah, there is a well-being which is before form, which has always got our back and is always there to give us prompts through intuition, through a feeling. And yeah, you see, there are two types of feeling. There is a feeling in the which is a feeling of we do like or we don't like. That is through the intellect. In other words, analysing stuff. Oh, that looks good or that looks bad. That's a feeling. But there is another type of feeling, far deeper, far more wisdom in it, and that comes from the heart. It comes from before form. You just know, and you don't have to analyse it. It's like that mathematician. You just get to know. And when you get to be friends with this understanding, trusting the understanding, I do, it helps. It doesn't mean to say that shit doesn't happen, because it will and always will. It just means that you can cope with it much better because you've got a steadfast rock to cling to. And I'm not talking about religion here. I'm just talking about the fact of life is that there is an unseen energy which we can tap into. We're not even tapping into it, so it's there. It's with us. So join the gang, as it were. I shall talk next week a bit more about well-being, and what I intend to do get round to it, is to give you some more examples of types of well-being, and then actually go on to being deeper with what the principles are and explaining them. But I think, in my view, you can only understand the principles, get to know them in feeling, get to know them not in an intellectual sense. In other words, if I had to start at the front of the programme saying, this is what the three principles are, it would have come through intellectually, and I'm trying to give you a grounding and a feeling for that. So I hope that you bear with me on this, and have a good week. I will see you. Thanks for listening and watching. Thank you very much. I hope to see you again. Hope it cools down. Blinking heck, it's a bit hot. It ain't half hot, Mum.